Greetings and welcome to the 2021 State of Diversity Address at Oregon State University. I am Charlene Alexander, and I am honored to serve as Oregon State University's Vice President and Chief Diversity Officer. First and foremost, I hope that you and your loved ones are staying safe and healthy during this very critical time, where everyone has a role to play to ensure our safety. The importance of advancing inclusive excellence at Oregon State has never been more salient than during these challenging times. The staff in the Office of Institutional Diversity would like each and every one of you to know we are with you. We think about you constantly, and we recognize the many challenges faced and pain and harm experienced by our communities this past year. Our work is to ensure that the needs of everyone served by Oregon State University remains front and center of the many decisions being made at this time. We have shown that we are a resilient community, and together we will continue to grow and flourish wherever we are. With that said, I want to respectfully acknowledge that I am delivering this address on the ancestral lands of the Mpinifu, Mary's River Band of the Kalapuya people. After the Kalapuya Treaty in 1855, Kalapuya people were forcibly removed to what are now the Grand Ronde and Siletz reservations, and are now members of the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde and the Confederated Tribes of Siletz Indians. We pay respect to their elders, past and present. From wherever you are viewing this address, please take a moment to reflect on the histories and impact of colonization and migration that have shaped this country. This State of Diversity address is unlike any other. This address centers the diversity, equity, and inclusion work happening across the university and will feature conversations between several OID staff and community members. I'm excited to present to you the vision, accomplishments, progress, and yes, challenges we still face as a university in the following conversations. Even though it feels like the world is standing still, we know we must continue to create a university where students, faculty, staff, and community members, near and far, know they belong because their unique perspectives and experiences are valued and included. Part of telling stories includes acknowledging that we have room to grow. We can each take action from within our own spheres of influence. These actions are needed more so today than ever before. And as an institution, this is not the time to depart or lose sight of our core mission and values. This is a time to lead from our core mission and values by affirming our commitment to academic success for all and our commitment to becoming an anti-racist institution, so that we will emerge from this crisis stronger and better. Your contributions matter. I feel incredibly hopeful and excited about the future ahead for Oregon State University. Thank you. Greetings, Becky. It's so good to see you. I should say President Johnson. We're so excited to have you in this role here at Oregon State University, a new role for you, but certainly you have an incredible history of Oregon State University. I think as we enter this state of diversity conversation, I thought it would be great for our community to learn about you and your commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. So tell us a little bit about yourself and the DEI connections.
Sure, be happy to. So, I just feel like diversity, equity, and inclusion are critical to everything we do at Oregon State University and critical to everything that we do outside of Oregon State University as well. And as you mentioned, I've been at OSU for a long time. I started in the College of Forestry. And at that time, there was probably more focus on gender equity and gender bias because forestry was such a male-dominated field and the industry was male-dominated. And but even, this was 35 years ago, we still had programs where we were also trying to diversify the workforce and student body in terms of race and ethnicity. And I remember like Weyerhaeuser having a program where they were offering internships and job shadowing for underrepresented students because they were trying to diversify their workforce. And I remember we joined a group called Manners, MANRRS, I think it is. It's Minorities in Agricultural Natural Resources. It still exists today. So we're making these efforts, but it was difficult. And just like at the larger university, it's just been slow progress to try to diversify both the student body and the faculty. And those things go together, as you know, because if we are successful in recruiting diverse students and they don't see people who look like them when they arrive at the university, then that share their experiences too, and not just look like them, but understand the experiences that they've had in their life, then they're less likely to stay with us and succeed and graduate. So I've been certainly involved in those efforts throughout my career in the College of Forestry, and then as Vice Provost for Academic Affairs and International Programs, and then at OSU Cascades, where I think it might even be more of a challenge because the campus is so small. And again, Central Oregon is probably even less diverse than the Willamette Valley. And so again, the challenges of recruiting diverse students and faculty is difficult, but it does go beyond numbers and representation. It really speaks to how we treat people, how we welcome people, how we make them feel that they're part of our community, help them to be successful. It's much more than just counting the numbers that we have.
Yeah, thank you. And that maybe brings us to a way to start thinking about our diversity strategic plan and the progress that we've been making. As you know, when I started here, one of my very first efforts was to ensure that we were pulling together and building a diversity strategic plan that really then has become the North Star for the work that happens in the Office of Institutional Diversity. And I know you've had a chance to review our diversity strategic plan and our progress matrix in particular. What are your thoughts on where we need to head then as an institution?
Yeah, I think the diversity strategic plan is really a great roadmap, and I want to commend you and your colleagues for doing that. And it's really comprehensive. It's ambitious. It does have specific things that we can do to reach our goals, and it spells out some metrics so we can keep track of the progress that we're making. So I think that we've laid out the challenges that we face. I think we clearly know what those are, and those strategies, I think, are all targeted on the goals. And the challenge, as you know, is always finding the resources to support those actions that we know need to be taken. And it's also understanding that many of these things are really going to take many years to achieve, and yet all of us would like to see them tomorrow, right? We'd love to see change happen faster. But we've been living with systemic racism for decades and decades. And we know it's not going to change overnight, but all we can do is take these steps, right? Every day we're making a step that we think is a positive step in the right direction. So I think the diversity strategic plan is really a great roadmap for us going forward.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. And as you said, as you mentioned, systemic racism, as you know, we continue to see an increase in anti-Asian, anti-Black sentiment nationally and locally. As we think about that, how do you think we can best support faculty and staff and students who are members of these communities?
Yeah, I think the first thing is listening to them. And as a white woman, I'm never going to completely understand the experiences of a woman of color, but I can listen to her challenges, and I can ask, how can I help? What can I do to help? And so, we know that all students are facing tons of challenges from the pandemic, but we also know that communities of color are suffering much more because of inequities in access to healthcare, access to education, access to other social services. And so then you add in the things you were talking about, the anti-Asian acts of violence, the killing of Blacks at the hands of police officers that have been so prominent over the last year. And then I just think that made the whole year even more difficult. So when you say, what can we do at OSU? Obviously, we do have services that are available for students, whether it's financial aid, whether it's access to mental health and physical health services. We have food pantries, so we have ways that we can help address some of the financial and health issues for our students. And then once we're back on campus, we do have our cultural centers that can offer safe spaces and offer community for our communities of color. But I really think we need to increase our training and our education for all the members of our community so that they understand the history of systemic racism, the impacts that it's had and how it persists yet today. And that until everyone has a better understanding of those things, that they won't be better equipped to provide a welcoming and supportive environment at OSU. And so I know the university is working on these things, or we're working on an anti-racist curriculum. I know we have a lot of opportunities to sign up for different kinds of diversity training, but we know that a course or two isn't really enough to make a difference in these things, but at least it's a start. And for those that do want more, there's obviously lots of these opportunities for people to engage. And the hard part, of course, is getting the people who really need to be exposed to these things to attend things that are voluntary. And so I think that we do have some things that are mandatory for people to get involved with as well. I think that's a harder path. When somebody tells you have to do something, you might go into that training or that education with a lens that doesn't allow you to really take in what you're being exposed to. So I really hope we can make some progress on the kinds of education and training opportunities that we have so people have a better understanding.
Yeah, I agree. And I think to your point about, how do you reach those who need to be reached, especially when we're asking folks to volunteer for these experiences, I feel that, it's important for us as an institution to have, some baselines of just respect for all that hopefully everyone can agree on, and everyone can sort of center their work and their experiences, that we just, if we can just get to, at a basic level, let's just start there, right? That we respect each other, that would be great.
And unfortunately, our political divisive society right now makes that even harder, right? Because people come to the conversation in a defensive posture. Correct.
Yeah. So with that, given everything that we know about what's happening across the country, what gives you hope?
Well, maybe it's just how long I've lived, but the progress that I've seen over my lifetime does give me some hope. that we will continue that progress. I just finished reading Caste. Assuming you have read that, and it's mind-boggling to me to be reminded of the extreme acts of racist violence that happened in my lifetime, right? But definitely happened in the last century. And it wasn't that long ago that things that we would all find absolutely horrific now were accepted in many parts of our country. So I think that having this understanding of where we've been and the impacts that has had will help us move forward maybe faster than we would have otherwise. I can tell you as a lesbian that things have changed significantly over my lifetime. So, another book that I was reading called, I think, Leaving Isn't the Hardest Thing. And it was written by a woman who's a decade younger than me. And she was talking about how she feared for acts of physical violence because she was gay. And I can say, I never even think about that anymore. So again, we're in a different place now than we were 30, 40, 50 years ago. So that gives me hope. But I also know there's still obviously LGBTQ people who are subject to emotional and physical violence. So progress is great, but also knowing that we have a ways to go. And at OSU, I guess I feel like the progress that you've noted in your diversity strategic plan and that we've noted in our Moving Forward Together initiative that had, I think, 45 actions, and almost all of them showed some progress, right? They're not there yet. We're not done, but it shows that we are making progress on some of these issues. And I also think that at the leadership level at Oregon State University, it's expressed in our strategic plan and our value for inclusive excellence that I think that people are committed to doing the work that we need to do to keep making progress.
Great. That's wonderful. Thank you. Anything else that you would like our communities to know, either about how you are approaching this job as the interim president? Anything else that you think it's important for them to know about who you are as an individual?
Well, I hope that I get to meet a lot of people in the fall that are not on campus right now. And I think that I'm really transparent and I hope I'm authentic. What you see is what you get. And I hope that people appreciate that I have nothing but the best interest for Oregon State University, all of our students, faculty, and staff. Been a lifelong Beaver here since 1984. This is a wonderful way to cap off my career, but certainly not just resting into retirement. I want to do what we need to do over the next year to make sure that we're in a really good position to attract the next president.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. Thank you for your work. Thank you for this conversation and for what we know lies ahead. And I'm very excited that you're here to help us through this transition and continue the work that's been started. So thank you so much.
Thank you for your efforts, Charlene, and your leadership.